Hi guys, this is a special recording to share with you some outlook and analysis before the BOC rate statement coming in about 1 hour and 1.5 hours, right around 10 o'clock, depending on what time you are viewing this video recording. Okay, I'd like to share with you three particular pairs and therefore three charts to show you some potential play that you can take coming into the BOC rate statement. Right, the first one I want to walk you through is the dollar Canadian. Right, this is on the hourly. Alright, doesn't really matter which time frame you are looking at because we are looking at a pretty I would say short term in terms of when the news is released, what would be the likely reaction from price, right? So this is something that I would like to also share with you that this analysis, when I put it off, it doesn't mean that it's 100% guaranteed that price is gonna do according or move according to what this analysis is, right? But this is a projection so that when price does exactly how we anticipate, that is actually when we hop on onto a trade to ride it. Okay, so for dollar Canadian, this is what I'm seeing. Okay, since the recent low over here, price has been moving up in this bullish channel. Okay, and the recent price development for the past few days has been very corrective over here. Okay, which means that we'll follow the overall impulsive move, which is upwards, alright, which means that going into BOC rate statement later on, the anticipation, the projection of the direction will be towards the upside. Okay, somewhere potentially towards 1.32 region, and if that happens, okay, means that the Canadian needs to weaken relatively more than the US dollar. Okay, when the news is being released and of course moving forward as well. Okay, I doubt we'll see a 100 pip move in today just like that. Okay, so this is something that anticipating a weakening of the Canadian, okay, using this pair analysis. The other one I want to walk you through is the Australia Canadian pair. Okay, so this analysis here shows that we do have a pretty impulsive move to the upside, right? My view over here is that we are seeing a 1, 2, 3. Okay, and within this tree you can see there's a red 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right now I'm anticipating the wave 4 development, which we have saw the first move, alright, which is pretty strong over here. Okay, and again this is a very corrective nature for the past few hours, which means that the anticipation for this particular move coming next, alright, will be to the downside. In other words, we are anticipating the Canadian to be relatively stronger than the Australian dollar, okay, based on this particular analysis and chart, right? And the area that we're projecting it can potentially go towards is 9235 and 9204, right? So 992 of course is a very psychological number, okay, which might offer some support, and most of the time the larger degree wave 4 would likely retrace towards the previous wave 4 area as well. Okay, but overall for the Aussie Canadian, the overall potential bias and direction, okay, I would say it's due to the upside, right? But of course moving into this particular news event, for the BOC rate statement, we might see this move happening. Okay, in other words, looking at the Aussie Canadian, we'll be expecting the Canadian dollar to strengthen relatively more than Aussie. Okay, the next one is the Canadian Swiss franc. Okay, so this is the analysis over here. It's pretty strong to the upside. You can see this is clearly an impulsive move, which is likely a third wave up. Right, so we have a first wave over here, followed by a running flat, which give us the wave 2, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, giving us the wave 3. And this is potentially the wave 4 that might have completed, okay, around this bottom. If not, alright, we might still potentially see wave 4 developing, which means that we can still see a drop on the Canadian franc going forward, right? But as of now, the projection still stands, alright, that wave 4 has been completed. We saw a very small impulse move followed by a very corrective nature for the past few days, okay, which means that the projection moving forward is to the upside, potentially towards 0.77 or 78. Okay, to complete a 5-way structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll expect a deeper correction. Okay, this part here, the confirmation can come from the break of this trend line, alright, this dotted trend line. As of now, price is consolidating very nicely below it. Okay, usually in this case, the higher probability move is to break this trend line to the upside. Okay, based on this three pairs, of course there are many other Canadian pairs, but this three is the clearest chart that is offering some setups going into the news, right? So we have the dollar Canadian looking to show us that the Canadian is weakening, right? The AUDCAD showing us that the Canadian likely to strengthen, and the Canadian franc also showing us the likelihood of strengthening. Okay, and of course the overall majority expectation and forecast is that the BOC is gonna raise rate going into this this meeting. Okay, but again, I want you to know that doesn't mean that, you know, once the bank increase interest rate, the price reaction is gonna shoot up immediately. Alright, so sometimes you might see that the banks increase interest rate, okay, but the currency itself weaken at the immediate impact, alright, and then of course after that, then it starts to gain more strength. Okay, so overall here with these three pairs, how are we gonna, what is the play going into this particular news event? Of course is that you can put in a straddle strategy, which means that you know, you put in potential buy setup for the Canadian, at the same time put in a potential sell. Right, so what it means by that straddle is that you look to sell the Canadian on the dollar CAD pair, alright, and you look to buy the Canadian on the Aussie CAD pair, which means that, you know, whichever breaks out of that setup, you'll be looking at it. So instead of putting a straddle on the same currency pair, alright, you put a straddle on two different currency pairs, alright, so that is a potential play moving forward, going into the rate statement later on. Right, so that's all that I like to have. Like to keep it concise and focus on this particular three potential play going into the BOC rate statement. Alright, once again, don't take this as you know, a signal or just to blindly trade it, but just to shoot out a video to share with you how you can look into the various pairs to prepare yourself and anticipate on how price can move when the rate statement is being released. Right, so with that, I'll talk to you in the next video. See you guys.